Testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, honey, did I finish my coffee? Yes, I need a new cup. Hi, everybody. All right. So I did say that the Man Up Show and even Dana with the Data podcast, honey, we are on holiday break, but we will come live when it's breaking news. And it just so happened this morning, we have breaking news. Fani Willis is officially disqualified from the Georgia election case featuring Donald Trump and I believe 12 other defendants. She's disqualified from the Georgia election RICO case. She's out of here. Now the indictment still stand, but she cannot prosecute the case. And most likely the indictments will be dismissed. Of course, Judge Joe Brown is coming up. We have to wait for him to log on. Yes. And I am going to send the link to LA Pink because she has been riding not just on Fani Willis in the DA office, but the Fulton County Jail and all the corruption that's going on in Fulton County. So I'm going to send her the link and have her come up in a little bit. And I just want to say, listen, everybody who has been tuning in, listening to when me and the judge was bringing you the breaking news of Fani Willis last year in February, up until now, it's a lot of work involved. You know, we interviewed a lot of people, got a lot of insight. Judge went down into Fulton County. He was in Georgia for about 2 weeks, campaigning for Donald Trump. All of the guests that came up here to talk about their experience dealing with DA Fani Willis' office. I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, and LA Pink and her organization for, standing up for the people. And yes, today is a good day. It's a small step towards justice, right? And it is a good day for the little people. And I am going to ask the judge about that and have him elaborate more on that when he comes on. So, thank you, Perry, Anthony, Katina, Robert. I see you guys. Godspeed. And this whole journey thing, with the Fani Willis and just all of Fulton County with the YSL case, Harrison Ford, we got to interview him. We got to interview Judge McAfee, interview the people that live in Atlanta and Fulton County. And it was just a lot. It's a lot of injustice. And this is not about skin color. It's not about black. It's not about white. A lot of times it's about the haves and the have-nots, the people in power, and us, the regular people, the American people. So yeah, and this is just the first, because I think, I do want to see her brought up on charges. And Nathan Wade, when we talk about money laundering, when we talk about conspiring with the White House, like, come on, abuse of power, abuse of our justice system, abuse of your office as DA. You're supposed to serve the people, not go against the people. So while we wait for the judge to come up, I want to play a video, the breaking news video. Let me share. How do I share? I'll share here. What is this? Oh, here we go.
Georgia. And here we go. A Georgia Court of Appeals has disqualified the Fulton County DA Fani Willis from that election interference case. It's coming down right now. The case against Trump and more than a dozen others already largely stalled, as you know. The new ruling means that it will be up to the prosecuting attorney's council in the state of Georgia to find another prosecutor to decide on the case, to take it over and make a decision as to whether or not they continue with the prosecution of the incoming president.
And former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo is here. John, does this mean that this is yet another one of the cases against Trump that could go away before he's president?
It's another example, Dana, of this lawfare campaign that was waged by Democrats, boomeranging back on them and falling all around their ears. Anyone who watched this trial, remember, this is the DA who claimed that the entire Trump reelection campaign was something like an organized crime racket that was intending to deprive everyone of our civil rights to vote. But remember, we saw the dramatic testimony over the summer of how DA Fani Willis had hired her boyfriend, essentially, to be the special counsel, overpaid him, and then had him bring charges against Donald Trump. It's a complete conflict of interest. And if you take a quick look at the Georgia Appeals Court decision here, that's what it says. There's such an appearance of impropriety, an appearance of a conflict of interest that Fani Willis should not be the prosecutor. I think this spells yet another case that's going to have to either be suspended or more likely just ended and tossed out. It's hard for me to see another Georgia district attorney wanting to take up this flawed case and try to prosecute Trump on these theories that his reelection campaign was some kind of criminal organized crime enterprise.
John, a couple of things here. There are 14 others that face charges. I don't know what happens to them, but she can appeal to the state Supreme Court in Georgia. But given what the Supreme Court said in Washington about immunity, I mean, does the state Supreme Court even take her case in Georgia?
It's a good question, Bill. I think what's going to happen here, along the lines of possible appeals and so on, is it looks likely, because of that presidential immunity decision by the Supreme Court, that any kind of state prosecution of President Trump would have to be at least suspended, if not dropped. You're seeing that going on, those arguments going on right now up in New York City with the case being heard by Judge Merchan. So even if they could get past immunity, they'd still have to suspend it while President Trump was in office. But furthermore, you'd have to go back and then scrub the whole indictment, scrub everything the grand jury did, and say you've got to eliminate anything that used official actions by President Trump, any evidence that came in from White House officials, from anything the president was doing in the Oval Office. That might actually fatally handicap this prosecution and require the whole thing to be dismissed.
It's interesting, too, because she had this novel way of trying to get at him through RICO. Was that a mistake as well? In addition to her personal behavior, obviously, is what they're saying here. But in a way, it was this like novel idea of like, how can I be the one to take Trump down? That's for like politically, she wanted that reputation.
Yeah. Dana, you and I remember we're Justice Department alums. Yeah, I remember you when you were there and I was there and we were, there after the days of 9/11. And you can use this kind of statute, RICO, to try to go after real organized crime, drug cartels, mafia organizations. DA Fani Willis introduced, I think, a really dangerous theory, was that we could use these powerful tools that are used for terrorists and drug cartels and apply them to political campaigns, and not just any political campaign, but the campaign by the leading opposition candidate at that time, Donald Trump, the head of one of the two major parties in the country. I think ultimately the whole thing would have been tossed out because it violated the free speech rights of Donald Trump, the free speech rights of the Republican Party, and actually a lot of Americans who supported him. So I think in the end, this whole thing was going to come crashing down around Fani Willis's and the Democratic Party's ears. Anyway.
Well, it seemed complicated from the beginning. There is that case here in New York that's still out there, the 34 counts in Judge Merchan's courtroom. He made a ruling about a week ago that the conviction still stands, but the penalty will be judged at a later date. John, do you think that later date ever happens now?
I think this is Judge Merchan really still trying to go after Donald Trump. You think about it. If you look, Bill, you mentioned the presidential immunity case. There's a footnote, a really important footnote in that opinion that says states, even if they're prosecuting a president for private acts, can't use evidence from the presidency. They can't use what Donald Trump said in the Oval Office. They can't use what White House officials said. Nevertheless, Judge Merchan went ahead and held the trial and introduced that kind of evidence. He should, at the very least, order a new trial, if not force the DA to go back to it. But what Merchan is doing, which I think is still dangerous, is he's dangling these charges still, the sentencing, over the head of Donald Trump and saying, well, I can't sentence you now. Maybe I won't. He could try to get in before the inauguration, but he shouldn't. But he's going to say, I'm going to dangle that over your head for the next 4 years, and I'm going to be waiting for you when your presidency is over.
Well, you have to think he's doing the work of Alvin Bragg, right, Dana? At the moment. I mean, he works for the DA, right, John?
I don't know.
I won't say he's doing. I'm sure Bragg loves this idea because Bragg is trying to make his career out of harassing President Trump. And this is a terrible thing for not just Donald Trump, for all Americans because of the presidency. You don't want presidents to have to try to make the toughest decisions on behalf of the country and have to worry what's going to happen to me when I come out of office. Is this, stupid judge?
You have to be able to have clear decision making. Indeed, John, you stick around for a moment. We have some other breaking news. Bill.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Judge.
I listened to that. That's on point, but it's kind of simplistic and it shows, what shall I say, somewhat a lack of sophistication in federal and criminal prosecutions. See, Fani Willis has just started her list of problems that are about to be dumped on her shoulders. Remember, I have said over and over and over the last few years about this thing called the appearance of impropriety.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were talking about. The next thing is Merchan, who's an idiot, is about to get caught up in this. Bragg's going to get caught up in it. Letitia James is going to get caught up in it. Fani Willis is going to get caught up in it. Smith, the federal prosecutor who wasn't properly appointed, is going to get caught up in it. And it's a federal conspiracy charge. Now, for those who are listening the first time, a federal conspiracy, a felonious conspiracy, can arise when people agree to achieve something that is illegal, even if they do it in a legal fashion, in a legal way. Wade has gotten up and testified in front of a congressional committee. He's attempting, apparently, to get testimonial immunity, which is anything he testifies to can't be used in future criminal prosecutions against him, even if he gets indicted. But he's singing like the proverbial bird because he doesn't want to get caught up in this. So what they're doing is they're gathering evidence that a conspiracy occurred amongst those people who did what? They met up in the White House to plot how to get Trump. Met to plot. And that is a conspiracy, even if they submitted the case to a grand jury, which that's why they're not dropping it, because a grand jury is an independent entity under American law, and they indicted the parties down in Georgia. But that doesn't mean that a future DA is not going to take a look at this and say, hey, this is not RICO crime. I'm not going to get involved in setting up a precedent to say that if you disagree with a political party, you can go against them as though they were organized crime figures. And you see, RICO requires that requires that a person or an entity make or achieve or acquire most of its income from what is substantially criminal activity. There was no question about income or anything like this. This was just political manipulation and maneuvering. And to say that if somebody said, find me some votes, that requires such a precise use of language, even if you took it at the worst, that you could construe that. That is just totally out of line with American law. and would set forth a horrible precedent. As they observed, any dumb bozo in some back county of the United States could decide to go after a president, vice president, U.S. Supreme Court justice, a member of Congress, or the House or the Senate, or any federal official if they didn't like what they did. Now, Fani Willis is facing a conspiracy charge. She's got problems that are going to get her in some much hotter water about refusing to comply with the subpoena demands from the state legislative body. The Georgia Supreme Court has, on prior ruling occasions, decided it has the authority to inquire into the expenditure of monies that they have appropriated. And we've got $10 million that's missing. $500,000 for juvenile matters, $7.5 million to catch up on delinquent prosecutions, people that have been in jail who have not been indicted within 45 days as per Georgia law, and $2 million for sex crime prosecution. So that's $10 million she can't account for. And they're demanding that this be shown. As you and I have discussed, it looks like what Fani is doing would be allegedly money laundering for a number of things. That would be all of these cash transactions. We have an IRS problem. We have another problem here, which is making a knowingly false statement to a federal agent or agency, in this case, IRS. She had a demand against her to pay $8,500 in back due taxes. She apparently, according to her testimony, claims she didn't have it, but then according to her testimony, at the same time, under oath, she testifies she's got $15,000 in the cookie jar in her house. So obviously that's making a knowingly false statement to a federal agency. And interestingly enough, it wasn't just an interrogation. It wasn't just hearsay. She got on the stand and testified under oath, so it is evidence and usable.
Right.
The problem that she's going to have will be dovetailed in with what we have is a horrible conspiracy. That is, there are these people who are diehard, poor losers, and at all costs, they were going to get Donald Trump and destroy him. Well, they made a mistake when they got together and they had meetings to carry this out or plan this out. That is a conspiracy. The meetings were in the White House. Kamala Harris was involved in them, and Joe Biden was involved in them. And Biden might have immunity, but Harris would not, and it becomes essentially a federal agent or federal officer or office holder who is engaged in a felonious conspiracy to, in this case, destroy a political rival. That is such an anathema to the American system that it practically shrieks to be made an example of. And I see you got a new cowboy hat. Anyway.
The one from last week, yeah, but thanks.
The other one was black, wasn't it?
Yeah, the other one was black. Yeah. That's right.
Okay, now, this is very bad. Remember the discussions I have had about Nazism and fascism?
Yes.
Nazi is the German acronym for Socialist Workers, National Socialist Workers Party, Socialist Workers. And people sometimes get confused and associate fascism and Nazism with the far right. But in its essence, fascism and socialism are creations of the left side socialist, liberal cabal that was operating in the first part of the 20th century, which seems to be revitalized, resurrected, if you would. And that's what the Democratic Party has been exhibiting. They want to repress the First Amendment. Harris, when she was running, along with that clown Waltz, both said that the First Amendment needed to be repealed or modified so that things like misinformation could be countered and suppressed, which is supposed to endanger democracy if you don't, which is crazy. They want to get rid of the Second Amendment, which is the guarantee that the people will always be equal to their government as a collective entity. The Third Amendment doesn't apply because there's never been a case in the history of the United States involving the violation of the Third Amendment. The Fourth Amendment on search and seizure, Harris on several occasions during the campaign said that essentially probable cause be damned. They were going to come in people's houses and see what they were up to.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fifth Amendment, the right to be free from self-incrimination and due process of law as it applies to the federal government, they wanted to trample on that. The Sixth Amendment dealing with appeals and such like that, and application of the law. They wanted to get around that. So they essentially wanted to abolish or severely constrain the Bill of Rights. And that's precisely what you would see with someone who is attempting to implement fascism. Now, some call it communism, but there is a difference because communism, although it uses some of the same methods, has a different purpose. Communism was viewed as a correction for the evils of capitalism. And when those evils were ended, then communism would stop having a purpose. That's inherent in what Marx and Engels came up with, what Lenin came up with. And even Lenin, the founder of Soviet communism, said that Russia would no longer be communist after 1990 because it wouldn't need it. And he used the specific words glasnost and perestroika. And what did we have? Gorbachev in 1990 said the Soviet Union will be into the era of glasnost and perestroika, just as Lenin said way back in 1990, 70 years before. So what are you getting here? But see, fascism is unending. And the interesting thing about fascism is it's not interested in universal good. It's interested in pushing one side, whether it is a racial or ethnic group, a national group, or in this case, a cult, meaning the rainbow cult. That is what has been the driving engine that we have seen, because Donald Trump stood as a bastion, a breakwater against this thing they were trying to put in place. Mm-hmm. There is a thing on X today where Musk posts a question: are you for banning the use of rainbow flags or pride flags on government, the display on government building? Yes, we should be, because when a government entity displays a flag like that or an emblem like that, it is effectively endorsing the concepts involved. And we do not need anyone trying to endorse an official philosophy or faith for the United States. That is an anathema for through the Constitution.
Right.
So here we have people that say you can't have Christianity, can't have Islam, you can't have Judaism, you can't have Hinduism, you can't have Confucianism, you can't have Buddhism as an official religion of the United States, but you can have the rainbow cult as an official religion or a semi-version of it. Granted, it has no God to it, but neither does Buddhism. It's a system of philosophy. So we were being bamboozled, and a lot of people went for this because they were interested in being fair. Well, we are supposed to be fair and impartial. and non-discriminatory against all of these black people. Well, I guess that's everybody. No, that's not what the case is. These people are advancing a philosophy that amounts to a religion. It is a cult. It is a system of faith. And these people, in their attempt to ensure that this happened, conspired in the White House to take down Donald Trump as they saw him being an exemplar of their enemy toward this process of instilling this cult. So they met in the White House. Harris was there. Biden was the most likely there. Harris has said she was there. Wade testified about it to the Select Congressional Committee. And Fani Willis has been shown through plane tickets to have been there. Bragg was there. Letitia James was there. And Smith was there at some of these meetings. So when they coordinated, I predict there's going to be a round of conspiracy indictments, and there should be, because it's not retaliatory. It's simply using the process to set up a deterrent. In other words, if you hold office under the laws of the United States of America or any state, you cannot use the process of criminal nor civil law for the purpose of imposing a political or social agenda on anybody. And you cannot use it to suppress or chill the exercise of what is guaranteed in the Bill of Rights.
Right.
Now, that's a long story, but that's what Professor Brown has to say at this time of day relative to what you're looking for. And meanwhile, interestingly, one other little quick move on Fani. The Georgia state legislature will soon be back in session, and she has ignored a subpoena that the committee who wants to talk to her issued. So what? Somebody's talking. Who's
No,
that?
that was me by accident. Go ahead.
Okay.
I pressed
So
on.
anyway, what goes on is this: when the Georgia state legislature comes back in session, that committee can demand and have the sergeant at arms for the Georgia state legislature go physically arrest Fani Willis and bring her before the committee under arrest, handcuff her if necessary, or request, and that would be backed up by one of Georgia's circuit courts, a bond be set to assure her appearance as a witness. How embarrassing. Additionally, they are already proceeding in circuit court to have the court issue a subpoena, which apparently she has ignored since they have done that. And the third remedy is retaliatory. The Georgia state legislature can cut off money for Fulton County because it has $10 million it's interested in finding out what happened to. They can do that. So her troubles in Georgia are about to start. Also, when it comes to her law license, she may lose it for unethical conduct. She's made false statements to the IRS that were obvious from her own stupid testimony. She's laundered money or raised the question of it by her testimony. And remember, the bar is very concerned about, quote, appearances of impropriety, unquote. It looks bad. And lawyers have a problem that's been around for the last 500 or 600 years, and even Shakespeare remarked on it. He said, if you want to cure the problem, first thing you do is kill all the lawyers.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So you want to make sure that the legal profession, like the medical profession or the dental profession, whatever else it may be, whatever else there may be that is subject to some close scrutiny, is in fact an ethical and honest and forthright institution of professionals. So they will jack her up. She's subject to discipline or disbarment. So she's got state problems, and she should have federal problems because they need to make an example of her.
And they should. So I didn't want to be up here too long because it was breaking news, and I know you have a busy day, and so do you, LA Pink. I sent you the link, LA Pink, because you have been coming on this platform, just giving us firsthand what's going on in Fulton County, because that's where you live at in your organization. So yeah, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the breaking news today, Fani Willis being disqualified from the Trump, Georgia case?
As always, it's amazing. I don't live in Fulton County. My business is in Fulton County. Our work is in Fulton County. And I say that because of the next piece. I don't know if you're going to bring it up now or you want to wait till later for what we had discovered out here where I do live at. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about
You
that
can bring it up. You can bring it up
now. So, of course, everything that's been going on inside Fulton County with Wade coming forth. So they had said he had basically threw her up under the bus, and questions that was being asked. And I had brought this to your attention, because I had run into them at Ross out here in Douglasville, shopping. I
that
shopped.
was yesterday.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
shop there all the time. And so when I'm shopping inside the store, who's there? Wade and Fani Willis. And so I was like, I called you immediately because I was like, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, didn't he just testify supposed to been against her? Well, he did testify against her, but the way that they have it is though he was like, turning on her, and now they in the store together. So I was like, to you, I was like, is this a hoax? Like, is something else going on? Because how are they out together
As a couple.
as a couple if they're not? And yes, they were a couple. He was pushing the basket, she was shopping, looking a hot mess. Like I guess they thought that they wasn't about to see nobody. I shop in this Ross all the time, every day. They know me personally, so my name, everything. Hey, LA Pink coming in, and hey, LA Pink, have a good day going out, and so
Hold on 1 second. Let me ask you to do something. Keep a little set of notes on this. Record the time as you remember it. This was just the other day, right?
Yes.
Record the time you saw them, where you saw them, what they had on, if you remember. That becomes a recorded recollection, which becomes valuable as evidence in case they might want to call you as a witness to refute any contention that she is probably going to bring up to maintain that lie about they broke up and weren't dealing with each other. You
Right.
get it?
Absolutely. Well, yes,
So
indeed.
So just keep that. That's evidence.
it is evidence, because you said to me, LA Pink, because we was going to do a pre-record, but then we got the breaking news. I'm like, just come on up. That if he sat in front of the congressional committee, the judiciary committee, basically throwing her under the bus continuously, was it planned? Is that planned? And Judge, you could, comment on this. Is the plan, let me throw her under the bus so she can hurry up and get charged so that Biden can pardon her? Is that the plan?
Biden doesn't have to wait until she gets indicted.
Okay.
He can issue a pardon before the person is even formally charged.
Wow.
That's what they did with Richard Nixon. Remember that. What happened was Jerry Ford was minority whip for the House. Ordinarily, you go president, vice president, speaker of the House, but if the speaker of the House is in a different party than the president and vice president, then it goes to the minority whip, minority leader. That was Jerry Ford. Spiro Agnew, Vice President Richard Nixon, got indicted in Maryland and in the federal system. And as a fact, he actually served time in both Maryland and the federal system. So he resigned. That left the vice presidency open. So they appointed Jerry Ford, who was the minority leader for the House, and he became vice president. He and Nixon worked out a deal so that when Nixon resigned, Ford would pardon him for all crimes that would have come out of what was the Watergate incident. He had not been indicted nor formally charged with anything.
Okay.
So the president doesn't have to wait.
Gotcha.
Well, all right. I want to, let's kind of stay on Nathan Wade for about 5
But
minutes.
now, one little comment. If Biden were to pardon Wade, Willis, Letitia James in New York, Bragg in New York, and even the judge who has become so part of this, Mearshon, who I think is an idiot, he could be indicted because what he will have done, if it's a conspiracy, is so far removed from his duties as a judge that he doesn't have that immunity that would otherwise attach. Their problem is, what is it going to do for their careers for Biden to have to issue a pardon for them, even if they haven't been charged? Well, why did you need a pardon if you haven't done anything?
Right.
Right. I want to play this clip here, Nathan Wade. This was a year ago when he had to take the stand.
You say this, let's take the Belize trip, for example, since you started there. That was a birthday gift to me, so I paid nothing for that trip. Zero.
Okay. The charges that are on your card, he gave you cash for?
He did.
Okay. So all of the charges. Oh, did you have more?
I did.
Okay.
I wanted to get into the charges on the card because
Stop a second. That's a crime right there. See, in other words, well, not necessarily a crime. It's an IRS infraction. In other words, a cash transaction rather than him issuing a check that can be traced that formally states what the receipt was for. Question comes in is, are there taxes paid on that? See, that also indicates money laundering. So keep going. Very stupid move.
Is a task. You can probably imagine the attention that happens. So for safety reasons, she would limit her transactions. I mean, imagine trying to walk through an airport or sit at a restaurant or do anything. So there was no attempt to conceal the credit card. Everything is here. So,
and that's not what I asked.
Okay.
It certainly was.
The charges for Belize in March 2023 on that credit card, those are things you purchased to go with Miss Willis to Belize.
Those are things that we booked with my card that we paid. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now question. What the devil are they doing in Belize on the tab for the people of the state of Georgia? You see, what is their purpose? And the other thing is, what in the devil are you doing taking a vacation to a romantic place out of the country with somebody that's supposed to be detached from you, a special prosecutor? So there is a disinterest and objectivity in the prosecution of the indicted parties in this case. That is so far out of whack. It's like you're supposed to know better than that. You're after your first 3 weeks of law school.
Right. So I want to play a couple more clips. I want us to go down memory lane a little bit. How it all started.
And by the way, that look she's got on her face from body language shows deception.
Mm-hmm.
arrogant deception, but nervousness that she is putting a big effort to overcome.
Jezebel.
The blinking eyes, the chin thrust forward, the aggressive cast of the head. That's classic. I'm going to brazen this out. To hell with these folks. I'm going to show them. But she's also nervous.
She gave the media what they wanted. That's for sure.
Now, I find it interesting. McAfee is in his early 30s. He's very young to be a judge, but he is extremely wise. I contrast him, his demeanor and bearing, and his deportment, and the orders that he has written, and I contrast that with that 80-year-old idiot Meerschaum in New York.
So this is Nathan Wade admitting to having sexual relations with Fani Willis while Trump was in court. I mean, yeah, Trump was in court.
May the 30th, and may I answer the question that okay, thank you, Ronald. As of May the 30th, 2023, you had sexual relations with Miss Willis, isn't that correct?
The interrogatory, sir, asks during the course of the marriage and the period of separation.
Excuse me,
My response,
Your Honor, I would ask that the court direct the witness to answer my question, yes or no. As of May the 30th, 2023, had you had sexual relations with Miss Willis? Yes,
Mr. Gillen, let's start with at the higher level whether he believes he answered it truthfully, and then we can drill down into why or why not he doesn't, and maybe we'll end up exactly where you left us.
Well,
yeah, that's a good ruling. Good ruling.
Words matter, and then we have to establish what did and did not happen, and then he can give whatever explanation he chooses to what apparently is a false answer. But I would like an answer to my question.
And you may get one. I would like us to start at the high level before we drill down into specifics to see whether he actually contradicted that interrogatory, if I'm making sense.
Well,
in other words, lay a foundation.
Interrogatory is relatively direct and explicit. Sexual relationship.
Just ask him the goddamn questions and let him get there. The judge rules. Don't be a contentious fool.
You did have sexual relationships with someone other than your spouse during the course of the marriage and during the period of separation, which included up to May the 30th, 2023. Isn't that correct, sir?
Stop a second.
It's interrogatory.
Stop a second. Now, I know this is supposed to be a big-time defense lawyer, but he's not doing it right. He should have had the research done so he had a copy of the affidavit or the deposition. He should have asked him, are you the same Wade, etc., who gave a deposition on or about such and such in the matter of such and such? Yes or no? Yes. Do you recall having answered this question? And he should read the question, which is in the transcript of that deposition. Did you or do you not recall getting asked that question? Answer yes. Do you or do you not recall having made this answer to the question? And read the damn answer out. That's how you get it. And Judge McAfee is telling him properly. He's saying it a different way, but what he's talking about is you have to lay a proper foundation to ask this question. And even if you ask yes or no, he gets a chance to explain it. Anytime there is a yes or no response demanded to a question, when a witness is testifying, that witness may explain his answer. And it's a foolish thing to do under the circumstances because it may not be a question that is subject to a yes or no. It may be a maybe. And the other thing is since you are effectively examining a hostile witness, you may lead the witness in your questions. So he needs to ask him, did you or did you not during the course of your deposition in your marriage say that you had sex with another woman outside of your wife? All right. If his side, Wade should have had somebody representing him, or Willis should have had somebody standing in. They would say objection. Sustained, all right, lay a proper foundation. What would happen is that you would get into, did you or did you not have sexual relations with Fani Willis on or about such dates? See in the deposition and question their dates. If you'd done your research, you would be able to read those. Did you or did you not have sexual relations with a woman not your wife during the course of this? If he says no, well, would you please explain to the court why you contradict that with your testimony during the course of this deposition?
Should I finish?
All right. Is this person, in fact, that you had sex with,
That you did not have
Fani Willis?
All right, let me.
relationships with anyone outside of your marriage, and the period of separation is during the period, then you're answering the question to this interrogatory, correct, sir?
I'm saying during the course of my marriage, I did not have sexual relations to anyone, and this answer is no.
Well, again, Your Honor,
I understand. You can proceed, Mr. Gill.
We need a yes or no. Let's just
He
get.
said no. Now move on and get to the meat of it.
In 2023, have had sexual relations with Miss Willis, yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what you did is you answered no to that question, didn't you, or none, correct?
I didn't answer no to the question you just asked. I answered no to the interrogatory question.
And the interrogatory stands that you answered as a pleading in a civil proceeding, your divorce case, right?
Yes.
Now, excuse me. The next interrogatory, let's move there. That interrogatory states as follows: identify any and all occasions.
Wait, Judge, why are you muted? I can't hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Were you saying something? Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just flipped vertically.
Oh.
See, that was inartful. When I saw this, I know what I'm looking at. You have some very high-priced corporate lawyers who take very high-profile cases, but there is an art to doing what you do in the courtroom. If I could explain, it's like, has anybody ever been on stage trying to do stand-up comedy?
No.
It takes a certain art form, a certain talent to be a stand-up comic.
Thanks.
So people think you're funny and you can keep things moving along and you can, deal with humor. It's the same thing here. You may be a good lawyer, but you're not very good when it comes to being in court. Now, in England, they have a system that I really approve of. We ought to have in the United States. And I say this from having had 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge. We need the division of the legal bunch into barristers and solicitors. In England, solicitors prepare documents, contracts, and all that other stuff. Barristers are particularly qualified to be in court. They are like stand-up comedians. They're quick-witted. They see points very quickly. They can respond spontaneously to developments. This guy is not one of those. His examination is inartful. It's clumsy. It's awkward. It's inefficient. And it should not be where it is. Now, I have no doubt that he did adequate research, but he didn't show it. Now, let's move on.
I want to get to some more of the clips.
While they over there running their mouth, I'm over here paying them no mind. See, I'm so tired of hearing these idiots call my name as Fanny in a way to attempt to humiliate me. Because like silly schoolboy, the name reminds them of a woman's rear. While they over there running their
So
Let me say something about that. I know her daddy. I went to school with him for about 8 years. We, meaning him, myself, and others, there was a certain lady who was also a student at UCLA. Her name was Fani. So I have a sneaking suspicion that Fanny, because of the closeness she had in terms of BSU involvement with everybody concerned, had a great deal to do with her being Fani Willis, not Fani Willis. Nobody black says Fani Willis. Can you see going through elementary or junior high school? Fani, like what the hell is the matter with you, man? Like, what your mama do? Was she high when she named you?
let me get through some more clips.
Running
And
dozen.
where, when did he come to, I guess the condo, I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment, would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
what condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more than, see, what you don't understand is because of this case, I gotta move. And so I
Ms.
need
Merchant, if you
to,
could ask a more precise
Yes.
question.
please, give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this, let me tell you which one you lied in, right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And this is.
No, stop.
Mr.
Stop.
Senna, we're going to take 5 minutes.
Stop.
Be back in 5.
Stop a second. If this is the Attorney General, she's a goddamn fool and an ignoramus to say that. See, there is a hell of a lot of difference between a lie, a misstatement, or a mistake of fact. So she's coming up characterizing this thing as a lie. The judge should have jumped her dumb ass right here. She sat there and said an antagonistic setup. I understand what she's trying to do, but she's too dumb to know how to do it. This lawyer didn't exactly deal with examining her appropriately. The question should have been, have you or have you not had Mr. Wade over to your personal residence at any time? Yes or no? Has he or has he not been intimate with you at any time? Yes or no? And then you bring it down to the specific times and dates. You see, that's how you do that. This person is, like I said, doesn't have the art of cross-examination or even direct when it comes to this kind of thing. So
No, that was Ashley Merchant. I think she does a good job.
I didn't.
Well,
I didn't. The cross-examination was clumsy.
wait, okay, let me play it again. It's only 54 seconds. Let it play through.
And where, when did he come to, I guess the condo, I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment, would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more than, see, what you don't understand is because of this case, I gotta move. And so I
Ms.
need
Merchant, if you
to,
could ask a more precise question.
yes, please, give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this, let me tell you which one you lied in, right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Will?
You see.
Mr. Senna, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes.
So I don't think her questioning was she was.
It was horrible.
She said,
you can lead a witness. First thing, you don't ask the question. You make a statement and ask the witness if they agree to it when you cross-examination. Ma'am, didn't you in fact do so and so and so and so?
Isn't that a question?
Yeah, but she's asking, did you have any with all this roundabout? It's a fact, is it not, please, ma'am, that on or about such and such time you had him over to your house to sleep with him? Did you not? In other words, just jump or shit. Make a statement.
Right. Okay, make a statement with a question, but it's more of a statement.
Yeah, in other words, when you cross-examine, you can lead the witness. In
Right.
other words, if you are directly examining someone, you can say, do you or do you not recall the events of July 2nd, 2013? Yes or, yes. Okay. Did you or did you not have occasion to observe anything particularly out of the ordinary? Yes. And then what was that you observed?
Okay.
And you ask them. Now, if you're cross-examining, you say, you were in fact present during an event July 2nd,
Right.
2013. Did you
But
not
that's
in
forcing
fact
them.
observe
Right.
so-and-so? And you
That's-
lead them.
You're leading them because that's forcing them yes or no.
Yeah, you just make a statement and
Right.
see, you can do that. And this woman is not doing it. The judge said, what did McAfee say? Ms. Mearsham, you need to be more precise in the question. That's exactly what the point is.
Let me get
She's
to this
not.
Point where Ms. Willis should be treated also in this.
I think we
Very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be.
not so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Thank you.
Thank you. And she's an adverse witness.
All right.
I would have made her look so bad on the witness stand, she would have run out of the courtroom.
Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
All right.
And at my home in
We're gonna
South
clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it down.
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, that's, I'm gonna have to caution. That's gonna be my first time out to caution. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And
Thank you.
This happens again and again. I'm gonna have no choice but to strike your testimony. So.
Thank you.
Down, Ms. Merchant's question, I believe, was asking whether you lived anywhere other than South Fulton.
Why is she yelling at the judge?
Right.
Yeah, well, he's threatening to strike her testimony as unresponsive because she's not answering the question. He's already got on Mearsham for not being precise in asking the question. Mearsham seems to have forgotten that since it's cross-examination, she may lead, but she's fumbling and stumbling, asking questions with multiple components to them. It's not good form. And what it shows is you are a member of a high-priced law firm, but because your prices are so high, you lack practical experience from being in the courtroom. Now,
motion?
That's what we have.
Or does Ms. Willis want to take the lead here? Okay, so the position of the district attorney at this point is that she's no longer contesting the subpoena. Ms. Merchant has called her as the next witness.
Now, she is a hostile witness, so he may lead. That's what she should have established before she asked her to first. Hold on. Mearsham should have asked the judge to declare her a hostile witness.
No, Judge.
Speak with Ms. Willis now. It's sounding like maybe
Play
they're
out
withdrawing.
and comment.
The objection to the motion. So Ms. Cross, I don't know if you want to speak with Ms. Willis now. It's sounding like maybe they're withdrawing. The objection to the motion?
I need the motion to.
Or does Ms. Willis want to take the lead here?
We'll draw the motion to quash Ms. Willis. Based on the. I'm ready to go.
Okay, so the position of the district attorney at this point is that she's no longer contesting the subpoena. Ms. Merchant has called her as the next witness.
I would ask, I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant.
What was all that about?
Nonsense. And as I said, the first thing that should have been done, Merchant apparently overlooked it, is when she got on the stand, she should have said, Your Honor, defense wishes the witness to be declared a hostile witness whose interests are severely adverse to those of my defendant or my client. So, or defendant so-and-so, whomever she represents. She didn't do that. So you got into that, which you just heard, which actually in real time was after this went on.
Mhm.
So she should have done that. And when you have a hostile witness, you may treat the witness as such and cross-examine them and use leading questions. If you call the person as a witness and you don't get a declaration of hostile status, then you have to ask them questions that don't lead. Now, Mearsham ought to know good and damn well that she should have
Ashley Merchant.
Should have known good and damn well that this woman is hostile, and that the effective way to examine her would be as a cross-examination. So she should have, as soon as she got on the witness stand, asked the judge for that declaration. See, what's her name again? Merchant?
Ashley Merchant. I think
she called Fani Willis as a witness. So technically she would be stuck with you can't leave unless she requested that the judge declare Fani being a hostile witness.
Right. When she walked, for me, this set the whole tone for her downfall when she walked in and sat there and her first sentence, I need such and such documents. This was the beginning of the end of Fani Willis' career as DA.
And one thing, did you notice right before you started, she threw the sheath of documents down on the table, defense table.
LA Pink, did you want to comment?
Madam Pink.
Oh, there you go.
It was on mute. Absolutely. From the beginning of that whole entire case, because we had some that was down there right in the courtroom. I didn't particularly go to the courtroom because it's too much going on. But of course I was in the street. But when this all occurred, we immediately knew that this was a show for the community. It wasn't a show for or it wasn't to prove facts. It was to get the community exactly where she got them, to say, oh, she went off in there and she told them, because that's exactly where the community ran with her whole demeanor of everything that she displayed. It wasn't the fact that them looking at it like, why would she come off in there so aggressive? Why would she be so, ready to fight when if you innocent, you ain't got nothing to even be in that position? But it was for her to use it of what she did to the community to her advantage, to say, oh, they going after a Black woman and going into the churches talking about Wade being a Black man. They just want to attack him. That was that energy for that, so she doesn't care about the community. She doesn't care about her saying one thing and doing something else, because that's what that whole thing proved. That everything she went against Paul Howard with, everything she was sitting up there saying, it's a distraction. Now it's nobody's business, that her business is being put on the front line, so.
Exactly.
Let me give you a perspective. When you're going after the chief executive for 340 to 360 million people, who had his finger over the red button that could incinerate the planet Earth and wipe out a whole life, you step carefully when you start deciding you personally are going to take this individual on with something novel that has never been done before, and you're way out of line with the Constitution that you're supposed to be guided by. You step lightly. And what she has displayed, I find the concept that best expresses it is in the Caribbean. Man, the witness be testified like she got guilty knowledge, man. In other words, you may or may not be guilty of the crime, but there's some wrong that your tail is involved in, and you're acting like it. Her body language is extremely defensive, but aggressive. Like what did they say in the military? Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. So she's being offensive to hide her defensiveness.
Well, listen, you know, I didn't want to be here long. I just really wanted to do an hour. And I do want to say thank you, LA Pink, for coming on short notice. But you hit me up. You was like, when we doing the show? Because it's breaking news. I had to bring you on. Of course, Judge had to break down the legalities of it all and what can potentially happen, not just with Fani Willis, but Nathan Wade, Jack Smith. You got William Barr, you got Kamala Harris. Who else? And a whole bunch of other people involved.
By the way, let me ask you this. You heard the OJ trial go on, right?
Absolutely.
Did you hear all of that fumbling and stumbling and misstatements and on behalf of defense counsel?
No.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Defense counsel. See, I even stumbled a little this morning, but I wasn't prepping for this case. When you're the defense counsel in a case like this, you're not supposed to fumble and stumble like you're seeing these people do. It comes across when you look at somebody who is good at doing what they're doing, like it's a movie. Like you saw, if you tuned into the OJ trial, you saw it done to perfection. Johnny Cochran, his whole crew, nobody fumbled.
Let me ask you this question, Judge, because you are being very critical of the defense. So my question is, do you think that maybe they were intentionally asking her the questions in that way to agitate her for the cameras so that the media
No. What the question was is they had a sense of what they wanted to get to, but they didn't have the experience to get there.
Okay.
In other words, it's like a young guy, 16 years old, trying to get laid the first time. He talking to the girl he's trying to go to bed with will have the enthusiasm, but contrasting him, let's say when he's 46 years old and he's got a grown woman and he's no longer 16 and it's 30 years later, he's going to approach the whole question, the whole situation in a different fashion because of life experience. Now, that's what I'm talking about. I understand what they were doing, but it was very clumsy, and that's not how very good trial lawyers do. I'm not saying that this was not good lawyering for building up a record, but I was not impressed by what I saw. I actually looked at Willie Gary one time when he was doing something. I've known Johnny Cochran for 50-some years. Well, he's dead now. Okay. I've seen some of the best trial lawyers in the country go at it, and it is an art form. I'll tell you what it looks like, and it's the movie that I think most closely conveys what actually goes on. Al Pacino in Justice for All. And the way Al Pacino went in front of that jury was brilliant because that's how it works. That's what I used to do. That's what some other people used to do. That's the fine lawyers that we had in Memphis who used to get in front of juries, work them, wrap them around their hands, and do the rest of it. So you don't do that. I've had public defenders who have given better presentations and better examples of examining a hostile witness. That is rule one. If you have to call a witness from the other side, first thing you do, Your Honor, in the interest of justice, defense wishes this to be declared a hostile witness. She didn't even bring it up. Judge McAfee brought it up.
Okay. Well, LA Pink, last words. Anything you want to say in closing? Of course, I'm gonna still have you come back on because this isn't over. But as far as breaking news, anything you want to say in closing?
Right. You guys just continue to just tune in to Judge Joe Brown and to Dana. You guys get all of what we have here in Fulton County. And anything that I get first, you guys will have. So people just continue to support. We continue to keep the boots on the ground for the corruption here in Fulton County. And we got to continue to just apply pressure to these political gangbangers down here in Fulton County.
Yeah, that perfect political gangbangers. That's exactly who they are and what they are. Also, this isn't over because yes, the Justice Department is investigating Fulton County Jail, but we got to stay on them to make sure change is done.
Yes,
whether those people are arrested are guilty or not, it does not matter. It's about the law,
yes.
Not abusing power, and they still have their rights. You are listening to
they just denied his bond. Judge just today, or on the 18th yesterday, put a warrant for him for something that happened that was a warrant that was supposed to be sitting there, but it was never even looked at or Gotti.
Okay.
Yeah, on the YSL case, he was supposed to get out. They were supposed to set it. He went up for a bond hearing and they denied his bond. Well, they delayed it, and then they went back and they said because he had a warrant out for his arrest. The warrant was just issued yesterday. How is that? But more corruption here in Fulton County, just showing you the judges, the DAs, the sheriffs, they're all working together to continue on the corruption that is going on down here in Fulton County. And we got to take it all down. It's going to be like a domino effect. When one come down, it's going to hit them all. That's the reason why one is trying to save the other one, because it's coming. Oh, trust me, we'll continue to apply pressure.
Do you live in Cobb County?
No,
Cobb?
I live next to Cobb County. I'm in Douglas County.
Douglas? Okay, somebody really needs to look into Cobb County. There's some really horrendous stuff going on, crooked stuff in the courts and in their system dealing with child support, custody, and other matters. They are extorting people to get massive amounts of money out of them.
Yes.
And also something needs to be done about the bar there.
Yes.
That seems hell-bent on charging ridiculously high fees and doing very little to deliver in return. By the way, I'm not impressed with the young man copping out and now complaining about his bond. He should have had the nerve to stay where he was and let the jury come back with his verdict. He probably would have been acquitted. I think the jury indicated they were going to do that had he stayed in. Now he's whining about a bond situation.
Well, LAP, you were there.
I was.
I just have one thing to say. In my 50 years of experience doing this, I despise and detest the coward. And what happens is a lot of times the state doesn't even have a solid case, but they had what we call banned, B-A-N. We used to say, dude got banned. What does ban mean? Bluff a Negro. And that's being nice. In other words, you bluffed him into giving up all of his rights so he can whine about it later, about how he got done injustice. Right. I've had more and more cases I can look at where I was there as the judge or the defense lawyer, and somebody did what he did. Why did he plead guilty? We were going to acquit it.
Yeah.
You lose your nerve.
LAP, you were there in the courtroom. And what was that like? Because he did regret taking the plea deal afterwards.
So I wasn't there for Young Thugs. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what his feeling was. I just know afterwards when we were in the hallway, he made a call to one of the attorneys and was like, why y'all let me take the plea? But they did. And his father, everybody fought hard for him to not, but they went with his decision because his decision was he was ready to get home to his family. You know what I'm saying? So they went along with the decision because really, at the end of the day, the attorneys work for him. He doesn't work for the attorneys, you know, so they're going off of your energy, your fight of what you want to do. If you want to say you want to keep going, let's go. They can advise you to not if that's something that they want to, but if they advise you to keep fighting, you need to keep fighting because that means they know that they haven't won, you know, because sometimes your attorneys, especially down here, you got to be very careful with Georgia because a lot of the attorneys down here are in bed with the DAs and all of them. You know, we have the NAACP down here. The Atlanta version is the new KKK for me. You know, like I said, Ben Crump and all of them, they're supposed to be, you know, these activists. For me, they're the KKK to me, the black KKK. You know, they are working against the people. They are not for the people. They are not, you know, you go do your investigation, even on Gerald Griggs, and see how many cases he has won and how many he done tapped out or how many he done sold out. You know, and this is just being brutally honest right now of what we're dealing with down here also in Fulton County. You know, when you get it from the city council members that they have bought the NAACP out, then you got a problem, the Atlanta version. So that's just what we're against and dealing with down here.
My reaction is I don't know if they're so much in bed with. I just think they're cowards and they're trying to collect money and not deal with the law as a profession, but as a business. And they're trying to maximize profitability. When anybody is put to you as an expert or an authority on something that has to do with law, ask them how many jury trials they've had.
Right.
That's what you need to do is number one. And a lot of times you'll find out there aren't any trials. Next point is back to this thing with Young Thug. His lawyer took 20 days in jail because he had the balls to refuse to disclose his sources.
Absolutely.
That's my kind of lawyer.
Okay.
I'd hire him just because he did that. Screw all the rest of it.
Right.
I got a lawyer with balls. Some of the gutless stuff I've seen is just absolutely horrible. But now, you saw one plea entered. How long did it take for the judge to take the plea?
What do you mean?
Wasn't quick, wasn't it? Sir, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and may be used in evidence against you. If you choose to remain silent, that cannot be held against you. You have a right to be represented by an attorney at all stages of these proceedings, including upon appeal. At any phase, if you cannot afford an attorney, including for purposes of appeal, the court will see to it that you have an appointed attorney to represent you. You have a right to use the subpoena powers of the court to compel production of evidence and attendance of witnesses in your own behalf. You have a right to cross-examine any witness, closely cross-examine any witness that is called against you, to test the witness's recollection, accuracy of recollection, whether there are any consistencies or inconsistencies in the testimony of the witness. Do you understand these things, sir? Sir, did you go over such things at length with your attorney? Do you have any complaints against your attorney's representation? Is there anything you asked your attorney to do that he did not do with you? Did you discuss the list of witnesses that the state indicated they might call had this matter gone to trial? Did you discuss the testimony that might be brought forth from these witnesses? Did you give an opportunity to your attorney to go find witnesses on your own behalf? Did you give names, addresses, phone numbers, or locations? Did you discuss the testimony of any potential witnesses that might have been called in your own behalf with your lawyer? Do you have any complaints that you wish to tell the court at this time about what went on? See, so you asked this thing. It would take 12 to 15 minutes per person to take a guilty plea. So what I did is I would line them up and take 20 minutes to do 10 of them. because some of the questions are the same. And I had a good memory. I just got up, Mr. Thompson, did you hear those questions? Are your answers in the affirmative? In other words, yes, you're satisfied with your lawyer, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, we've got two here. Mr. Smith, your answer, so and so. Now, you are charged with the following so and so and so and so, and that consists of the taking of the property of another without that person's permission and converting it to your own use. That's what we call theft. It used to be known in Tennessee as larceny. Do you understand that, sir? In order to get a conviction against you, the state would have had to put on the following proof, which would have, etc. And you go on. So it's not that you want to plead guilty, yeah, and then you go on. So, you know, Young Thug had all of these people, including the judge, advising him that it was not necessarily the right thing to do, because the crazy part about it is this thing, I want to go home, flies in the face of brave men. I'll give you the contrast with Dr. Bill Cosby. When they convicted Bill Cosby, what happened is his judge had 60 days to file a written report on it. That clown took 11 months to make sure that Mr. Cosby stayed in jail as long as possible, because it was a flaky conviction that was totally stamping on the Fifth Amendment. Next thing that goes on is they came to Mr. Cosby within a week of his incarceration and offered to let him out within several days if he would just withdraw his appeal. He said no. There's a point to be proven. So you've got a blind old man in his 80s, got enough balls to stick it out so that the appellate courts in the state wound up acquitting him. And you got somebody whose name is what? Young Thug. And what does he do? He punks out because he's scared. He want to go home to mommy. You know, and he's risking 2 more days and maybe a little bit more. That is typically what's wrong with the Black community. The folk that have the voice, that are perpetrating on being badasses, have no balls. And frankly, it embarrasses me every time I see it.
You actually did a video a few years ago, I think it was 5 years ago, where you said that Young Thug was not too manly because he wore a dress. You was on Vlad TV. That kind of went viral back then. I think that was probably like 7 years ago.
Yeah, he ain't a man. He punked out. Flat out punked out. Now he's whining about it.
You know what I don't like is because now he's asking the court for permission to go to certain people's houses for the holiday. And if you had just stuck it out for another day or less than that and waited for the jury, you would be completely free and still not be at the mercy of the judge or the court. You get
and worse still, all of these young males trying to emulate your cowardly behavior, which is what's driving it. You're trying to put yourself off as Young Thug. And what are you Young Thug of? Nothing. You're not a badass. You a punk. You copped out. You should have stuck it out like a man would have done and gone to the end, but you dealt with the fear of it. Now, here's a stat that flies in the face of a whole lot of mess. For the last 50 years, just a little more than 2% of the people who are inmates in penitentiaries got found guilty by jury. 97+% copped out. And out of that, 84 to 87% confessed. So here are these people whining about justice is just us. My public defender didn't do this. My public defender didn't do that. Or my lawyer didn't do this. Or my lawyer didn't do that. But you copped out. Why did you cop out instead of stepping up to the plate and letting them throw some balls at you to see if you could hit any or whether you'd strike out? No. It always get me mad. And then see all of the badasses, and I used to do that, they'd be talking about, yeah, man, I'm down with the cause, man, you know. And when you're looking at the video of their confession, they have snot running down their nose like face like they're 3 years old, tears wetting up the top of their shirt, and they're going through a box of Kleenex, and the detectives are saying, young man, you really need to stop and let us get a lawyer. But I just want to see my mama. And all of this going on. And I looked at that and I just said, oh man, here we go again. Young Thug is a negative image to young black men to emulate what he's doing. And he ain't nothing but punking out, from skirt to what he did in court, where he copped out because he didn't have the nerve to deal with it. And what made him think he's going to go right home if he pleads guilty and throws himself on the mercy of the court?
Well, that's it for today. I just wanted to do, we actually went over, but I just wanted to do a quick live on the breaking news of Fani Willis. So thank you everybody that that tuned in. Thank you, LA Pink, for joining us. As always, unmute. And guys, go to streetgroomers.org. Streetgroomers.org. That's LA Pink's organization. Go and support. And
do so.
We'll have you come back on as always, because we really have to get on Fulton County Jail and still stay on Fani Willis next. So
and where did the $10 million go?
Yes. Right. Okay, we gotta end. Because I gotta get my day started. So thank you. Thank you, LA Pink. I'll talk to you.
All right. Kingdom blessings.
How do I do this? Oh, okay. All right. And thank you guys. Listen, thank you to Hella Mel says happy holidays, Dana. Thank you and the judge for speaking truth to power. Job for none. Love me some Dana, Judge Joe Brown, Philip Sadiq. Dana, you and the judge are killing me. He was laughing. Okay, thank you so much. So I appreciate you guys who sent in the donations. Everybody listening, please share, please like, thumbs up. And like I said, we only going live for breaking news. And we'll be back to regular programming in the beginning of January. So everybody have a happy holiday. Anything you want to see in closing, Judge?
Get you some barbecue sauce.
Yes, barbecue sauce.
JJBBBQ.com. Or go to Amazon, and if they aren't on strike, you can get it delivered in 2 days, just in time to have either a Christmas dinner where you can do some ribs or beef or whatever you want to do, and certainly for New Year's.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Go get the barbecue sauce, jjbbbq.com or on Amazon, and we will see you in the new year. Bye.
Okay. You know what?
Not yet.
Are we ended?
No, give me a second. I'm a little slow. Now we're done.
Okay. I really